schools more magnetic, much like they did my son's school at Shawnee. We were attracted to Shawnee for the aviation magnet program, and he's since went to the U.S. Naval Academy and graduated and is now a Marine pilot. So these magnets do work, and we can work to close our achievement gap by creating more carrot and less stick.
Got it. All right, and we've got 5 minutes left, so we're halfway through, and I only have a few more questions on my end before I give you the floor. We have a new school safety plan that's been implemented this year with safety administrators inside the building, school safety officers outside the building monitoring multiple schools. What do you think of the plan? Do you think it's enough? Do you think it's too much? Tell me about it.
I think it's trying to solve the problem with the wrong approaches. I think, again, what we need to be doing is looking at root cause solutions. We need to look at why there are threats to our schools, why there are mental health crises in our schools, why there's trauma, unaddressed trauma still in our schools, especially, like I said, since the pandemic. I don't support having guns in schools. I never have. I grew up without guns in schools, and I envision a community that's safe enough to where we don't have to have guns in schools. I do recognize that we live in a different time and that we need to protect from outside threats, but there's electronic surveillance methods that we can be using. There are security badge swipe-in features that we can be using. There's a lot of things that we can be doing to make sure that we are keeping outside threats out. But having armed police actually in our schools leads to disparate treatment. It leads to teachers asking officers to handle discipline that should be best handled by staff in the school, and just creates a disparate situation for our students. And we have to make sure that we're keeping our schools safe for all of our students, not just some of the population.
Got it. And nationwide, we're seeing schools struggle with staffing shortages, teachers, bus drivers, things like that. How do you think the current board is addressing the problem? What would you like to do if elected in regards to that?
Well, the first things that I would do is take a closer look at our internal investigations process, as well as our HR climate that we have, because I hear from educators all the time who tell me that they've applied for a position and no one's ever called them back. I hear from educators that they're being set up for grievances because they reported a problem in their school, so they're whistleblowers that are being harassed and retaliated against. And so, we can't keep recruiting in new teachers if we're not making sure we're taking care of our existing teachers, and also making sure that we are clearing the backlog and making sure that there aren't teachers being kept out or pushed out for some other reason. There seems to be a good old boy network in the school system that I would like to call out and make sure that we are addressing. And then there are, again, like I said earlier, these are problems that we've been sounding the alarm about for the last 10 years, and it's insulting, and I don't mean you, I mean them, continuing to ask us, how do you solve this problem? How do you solve this problem? When they didn't listen to the 50 other examples we've given them over the past few years. And to keep coming in and telling them how to solve the latest problem. And I'm talking about our teachers, our parents, our community leaders. There have been a great number of stakeholders that have provided input that has just been ignored and disrespected by the district. So that's really the main reason I'm running, is because I think I've done everything I can as a mom and as a person on the outside, only being able to ask them to do better. I think I need a seat at the table. And I'm the only mom on the ballot. I'm the only PTA mom. I'm the only person that has my background as also having been a teacher for 2 years in a private school in Southeast Kentucky.
Got it. And we've got a minute 30. I do want to ask you about charter schools, but I also want to give you an opportunity to talk about whatever I haven't asked you about. So choose how you would like to say
I'll answer your charter school question by showing you some examples. I like to talk about what I've done and not what I would do. Like I mentioned, I started Save Our Schools Kentucky in 2016. I started Dear JCPS in 2015. We have been, charter schools was the main reason that we started Save Our Schools, and we put together a campaign to stop charters in Kentucky. The teachers union actually bailed on our campaign when we had stop charters in Kentucky, because they just want better charters. But what we've learned by studying what's happening across the country is you can't have better charters if the people who write the legislation are intending to come in and take advantage of your community, which is exactly what is behind the legislation that we now have in Kentucky. An organization called ALEC helped write that, and they're backed by the Koch brothers and other dark money special interest groups. Then when we had vouchers, we changed it up and said stop scholarship tax credits in Kentucky. When the anti-CRT legislation was being falling about in this last legislative session, we put together a campaign to educate our lawmakers. These are postcards that we sent to lawmakers to make sure they understood what was at risk. And we even brought in Diane Ravitch back in 2018, I believe it was, and she spoke to the crowd. She's the founder of Network for Public Education, which, by the way, I have their endorsement. And they are a national organization. Diane used to be the assistant to the Secretary of Education, and it was her job, much like Betsy DeVos, to push charter schools on districts across the country. And when she realized that it was wrong, she did a complete about face and started her nonprofit, and here we are today.
All right, well, that wraps it up for us. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being mindful of the time as well. Let me go ahead and just stop everything here on this end.